Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Nerds Only podcast. You are here with your hairiest host, Mother Goose. You go.
We're also here.
I am Jeremiah Branch, another host.
Oh, and I am Kylee Branch, yet another host.
We're all here except Joey. He's dead.
All
to
here,
us.
all hosts.
Alive, but dead to us.
Could not make it.
Today, we're going to be talking about Heroscape The Battle of All Time. It's back, baby! Let's go!
Yeah.
Every time I see the slogan, the battle of all time, I mean, I get it. I understand it. It's correct. It's also a little silly.
It is a little silly, for sure, for sure.
The battle of all time.
So, for those of you that don't know, Heroscape is a war game. It's a little more simplistic, I think, compared to things like Warhammer, literally any of them, Fantasy Battle, Age of Sigmar, 40k, Horse Heresy, whatever, which I think is good. I don't think every war game needs to be as in-depth.
Did you say horse heresy?
Horus Heresy.
Horus heresy.
Essentially, in lore, Horus would be, I think, the equivalent to maybe Lucifer, as close as you could within the Warhammer universe.
Okay.
The fallen sun.
Gotcha.
So that's like Warhammer 30k is another way that people refer to it.
Thought you were just casually dropping a horse war game.
We need a horse war game.
You've played Risk.
You just gotta call it War Horse. There it is. There's the title.
The War Whores.
Oh, no.
War
Wait.
Wars?
Whoa.
My bad.
Whoa.
Anywho.
So, real quick, just for our audience, let's just kind of fill in when we actually started playing.
Heroscape?
Yeah.
Sorry. I started playing either exactly when you did or shortly after.
Yeah.
Elijah and I have been playing for like 20 years now.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started just recently. In this past year, they have brought this to my attention, and we all love it so much.
Which I think is an absolute crime that you... Sorry, I dropped my ring, which actually I need to put away because I fidget with it right next to the mic. I think it's an absolute crime that you and Kylee have been together for how long now?
6 years, right? A little over.
Married 3, dated about 2.5-ish.
Yeah.
And we just got you into Heroscape? We failed you, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. Everything in its own good time, right? You know?
The amount of board games that we've played, I think, in the last year far surpass any amount that we had played beforehand, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
And a lot of them have been like new experienced board games too. It's not just like pulling out old reliable ones. Like we've been trying a bunch of newer games and falling in love with them. So
Yeah. Speaking of, we were at GameStop yesterday buying the new Mario Party, and they now have a video game version of Catan.
wild.
Hell yeah.
I don't understand.
Can you play online, or do you all have to be on in person?
I don't know. I just saw the
there's
game
an
case.
online
Version.
version.
Because I was about to say, if you're far away from each other, but you still want to get together for game night, that would make sense. You'd be able to just do it online and like be on a voice call together.
Yeah.
Sure.
But if you all have to be present in the same room, it's kind of like, you just don't want to have the physical copy and do the cleanup afterwards, maybe? Is that the
Listen,
the
that's
thought?
a valid reason to turn board games into video games, is to not have to clean them up.
Yeah, but
Real.
Settlers doesn't have like okay. this is in the context of the games that we've been playing. Catan does not have a lot of cleanup.
Yeah.
That's fair. But I think, to the majority of people who have ever played a board game, it's probably the most cleanup that they've ever had to do.
True.
It's a mid-tier game.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's also like conserves storage space, you know, it's just a small, compact little video game. So you can put that like on the shelf and it takes up no space. Whereas having actual boxes for each board game that you like could potentially, and does for us, take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
So I guess from that standpoint, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Which, talking about taking up a lot of space, Heroscape takes up so much space.
It is an investment.
We have a giant tub, a gray tub that we've carried our Heroscape in for the last 20 years, and it's not big enough anymore for all the stuff. We've had to split it up into multiple boxes.
It's like a 20-gallon tub or something.
Yeah.
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 Oh, it's ridiculous. I'm so excited. The water tiles are so pretty. They pull on my autism hard.
Real.
They are gorgeous. And like they're sparkly, but not like in a glitter kind of way, in a very, very, like you said, a very appealing way.
Yeah,
A very magical kind of way.
like the sea foam glinting off the horizon.
Exactly.
Well, Jerry, you mentioned the water tiles, but what are they for?
Yes, the tile pieces are basically the map of the Heroscape board game. The best part about this game is that the map is completely customizable every single time you play. It's a hexagonally tessellated board.
That have interlocking edges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to... Anyways, yes, it's a bunch of pieces with interlocking edges. That's what you do to make the ground that you're playing on. They're tessellated hexagons, and they have all sorts of different tiles, depending on what type of terrain you're going on. Have different rules and stuff like that. But the possibilities are endless. You can just create literally any scenario you want. As much work and imagination and fun you're willing to put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's amazing about the Heroscape tiles is you don't have to just use them for Heroscape.
Mm-hmm.
You can use them for Battletech. I actually think they're, for anyone who plays Battletech, I think they're slightly bigger than the Battletech hexagons, but almost the same size. You could use them for D&D. You could use them for literally any role-playing game. You could use them for probably any war game. I could see you using this on the Lord of the Rings war game. I know... I can't remember what it's called because
War of the Ring? War for the Ring?
there is War of the Ring, which is amazing, but there's an official Games Workshop Lord of the Rings mini game, like Army Builder war game. But they actually just updated it to a new version. They updated all the minis, which look amazing. I feel like Middle-earth's in the title. I don't know, but there's a lot you can get
Makes
with
sense.
these tiles.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I think Heroscape failed initially is because people really wanted these tiles, but the only way you could get them was if you bought the master set mostly. There were a couple terrain expansions, and there were some army packs that came with maybe a two-sided or a 2-hex piece, but it was really hard for people to get terrain. And what I love about them bringing it back is now they're really committed to just selling terrain on their own. So Jerry brought up the water tiles. You can now buy individual water tiles. There's a tree pack if you just want some trees. I can't remember what that's called. There's a just generic Lands of Valhalla, which comes with a crap ton of land. It's probably your best bet if you just want to
Yeah.
get pieces.
Just as a start.
And then within the next year, we're getting a swamp-themed one, we're getting an ice-themed one, and a lava-themed one that I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I really think this is where... I think Heroscape as a game is going to shine, but I think the individual tiles, Renegade, the company that's brought it back, is really going to profit off of.
Yeah. I mean, it's a relatively simple game. I feel like for anybody who's really hardcore into strategy games, it might scratch the reason we play Heroscape is not necessarily because it's a terribly challenging game, but because of the map customization options.
Yeah.
It scratches that creative itch, and I feel like, to direct back to your point, that I agree the reason they failed way back when is because they didn't sell any extra terrain tiles, because that's why people were buying the game.
Yeah.
So that they could make their own maps and stuff.
Well, yeah, and saying that, like, all those other games that you mentioned, the war games, they have their own maps, essentially, that they come with, but in Heroscapes, you have to build your own space. You have to make it. And so if you don't have enough terrain tiles to make it interesting or different every time, you're not going to want to play it as much.
Yeah.
That's part of what keeps it fresh every time, is being able to change up the landscape and have to overcome different things every time.
Yeah. Which I do. So what's really great about the actual game of Heroscape, though, is there's a advanced mode and a basic mode. The advanced mode is, I would say, more in line with traditional war games, where every piece has abilities and you can build specific armies that synergize with each other. And then the basic mode, which is what we play, is just move, range, attack, and defense. It's very simplified. We like to play the basic mode because we like to build massive armies, like as big of an army as we possibly can, and fight it out.
Use every character we have, except, like, you know, make the teams even on every side, but use every character we have available.
Yeah, which I think, I want to say last time we played, we each had armies, roughly about 30, either heroes or squads.
Yep.
And it took us like 6 hours, and that was playing the basic mode. If we played the advanced mode, we'd be there
Whole day.
all day, 24 hours, maybe even a couple sessions.
Yeah. The sky's the limit with this game. It takes just as long as Twilight Imperium. It's ridiculous.
Which, I mean, the whole other thing is the versatility. Like you said, there's 2 different ways you can play with the actual characters, but there's also multiple ways you can play the game. Like you can have certain achievements you're trying to reach to end the game. You can play it as an all-out battle royale. You can play it as, like, Battle for King of the Hill to fight for the one spot the longest. It's like, it's pretty much what you can come up with.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to bounce off that, I think what's amazing is that whatever, like, master set you get, or even the first army expansion for the new release, I think it's called Wellspring of Life, maybe? It's right behind you,
Battle
Jared.
for the Wellspring.
Battle for the Wellspring. Thank you so much. They all come with in-universe lore canon scenarios, so you could almost play this like a campaign game.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite as in-depth. Like, what was that one you guys used to play? It was like Time something?
Time stories.
Time Stories. Yeah, it's not quite as in-depth as something like that, but if you want to actually have a story behind your battle, you totally can.
Yeah.
Quick sidetrack. Since our friends moved, we gotta find a new group of people to play Time Stories with. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
And we'd totally be okay with starting over at the first game.
Yeah.
We'll play more passively since we know things, but it would be beneficial to probably start with the first one.
Yeah.
I would totally be down. Maybe we give it a little more time, though, to get, like, obviously, it's not like you're going to go in completely fresh, but the longer we wait, the
less
more you'll
we'll
forget.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no pressure at all. But, you know, it's been like 2 years, right?
Yes. And we only ever finished the first campaign.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And there's a ton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We started, and we didn't go in the order because we were given advice that the next one that came after the first one was not the best. So I think we went to the third one.
Yeah.
But we started it and did like one session.
Nice.
So I don't even remember anything about the second game. I just remember the plot of the first one.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Anywho, sorry for the sidetrack.
No, that's okay. We got plenty of time.
Honestly,
Yeah.
what we got to do is just quit our jobs.
Be content creators the whole
Play
time.
board games all the time.
Yes, mainline board games into our veins.
Which, I mean, honestly, if there was a way for us to make content out of it, that would be awesome. Just like video and give reviews and things on board games and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I've got some ideas. We can talk about it later.
Heck yeah.
Something that I also really enjoy about the new release of Heroscape, which also, just for context, I know we've kind of mentioned that it's disappeared for a while. It ran from 2007 to 2014 initially, and then I think in 2014 is when it got canceled, and it was gone for 10 years.
Yeah.
Wait. Actually, no. I think it might have been... No, it was 2004 to 2010,
Oh.
and then it got back in 2024. So 14 years it was gone. Sorry.
Oh, man, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Something I really like, though, about this new release is they sell everything. You can get pre-painted minis for a little more, or for almost like half the price, you can get unpainted minis and paint them yourself.
And have a blast doing it.
Yeah. We've been going through and painting the Age of Annihilation Master Set and the Battle for the Wellspring minis. We've done probably about, I think, 6 minis. I think I'm looking at them now. I want to say 2. No, we've done 3 from each, it looks like.
Nice.
This is your guys' first time really painting minis. How do you feel about it? And especially in the context of like Heroscape and kind of having to paint these minis to play it.
Pretty good, honestly. It's a little bit tough when they have a lot of detail work on them. You want to make them look really good, and to do that, it takes a lot of work to be able to get just the right spots on all those little details. But honestly, I thought it would be a lot more frustrating than it has been. It has actually been a lot of fun, and playing around with the colors and the consistency of them has been really nice and appealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, I'm so sorry. I just want to clarify. You don't technically have to paint them. You could totally.
Oh.
Which,
Yes.
and that's on me. I said in context of having to paint them. I just wanted to clarify my statement. You could totally buy these, play it unpainted, and have an amazing time. The painting process is not required,
It's,
but I do think it improves the experience.
and it's
Yeah.
kind of hard when you pull all your characters out of the box and they're gray, and it's hard to tell them apart
Who's who.
unless you get right up close to them and look at all the little details. So you don't have to, but it does make it easier on you in the long run.
Yeah. Sorry, Jerry. Go ahead.
No, you're okay. I had a great time. I actually thought that I would consider it to be a laborious and tedious task, but it was actually kind of fun sitting there. We're also watching Arcane preparing for season 2 of that, so that's when we've been painting our minifigures, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I did the minifigure justice, but I had a good time painting it.
Oh, y'all don't listen to him. The one he painted, the first one he painted, was beautiful. It took a long time because it's got a lot of intricate details like we were talking about, but he did an incredible job.
Yeah. I really like it. And for context, it's the Dryan from the Master Set. The one with the elk skull?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
tree person with the elk skull.
Yeah, Jerry did really good on it.
Thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
I do have some complaints about the new set.
Uh-oh.
As happy as I am that it's back, I've got 2 major complaints. First is the price.
Yeah.
Our game store is amazing. It lets you put stuff on hold for a month. They'll hold it for you, and you can just go pay for it when you're ready. So I went and put away the Ravna's Rebuke, which is the newest set that just came out. It's $120 for the minis and the water set, and that does not include the Lands of Valhalla land expansion that I mentioned earlier. If I did include that, that would have brought the price up to like $190. which is insane. And next year, the first story arc, Rising Tide, if you want to buy everything, it's going to be, I think, $360, $370. If you want to include the paint set that comes with it, that's another $90. So that's $350 or $450, $460, almost $500, and that's the first of 3 sets that's coming out next year.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Gives a little bit of trouble for that barrier of entry thing for
Well,
new players.
I feel like it's like predatory marketing tactics.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I understand they got to make a profit off of it, but I don't know that they need to make a 40,000% profit off of it.
Right.
There's a lot.
I feel like they're trying to go the Warhammer route, which isn't a bad strategy. However, as much as I love the minis that we've gotten so far, they just are not the same level of quality as the Warhammer minis.
Yeah, like, you have to get there. You can't just automatically assume that you're going to be there and competitive with the front runner of minifigs.
Right.
Well, and I think it's almost just like poor strategy, because if you're trying, like, I know they're building off of a fan base. People loved this game, obviously, back whenever it was first popular. But if you want to pull in a new fan base, new people, you have to give them options of availability. Like, you can offer sets that are exclusive, that are higher priced, that are more collectible, but you have to offer like a base set for people to get into it. You know, that's affordable for it to become a wider fan base.
Yeah. Which, do you mind me asking, how much did you spend on the master set in the Battle of the Wellspring? Do you remember? I promise this is going to be relevant.
I think the Wellspring was like $40, and then
It's 120, right?
The master set was, yeah.
so I feel like we spent pretty close to $200, maybe just under.
Yeah, and then this current set, it's almost 200 if you want everything. And then we established, without the paint, it's going to be 400. So that's almost $800 for everything that's come out so far.
Yeah.
And when they initially tried to bring it back, so everything they're releasing now, it was what was originally going to be in the Kickstarter set that they did, I want to say 2 years ago. The price for that was going to be $300. So they've
For the
raised
whole thing?
for the whole thing, everything we've gotten so far, and everything we're getting up to April next year, $300, and now it's $800 to get everything, and that's just unpainted.
It's a little bit criminal.
Ridiculous, honestly.
So I think if you do want to get into Heroscape, the best way to do it is to go the Warhammer route and pick a Valkyrie, which Valkyries are the leaders of the factions, and try and just build this army around them instead of trying to get all of the content.
Because you can look up, like, character cards. You can get all the stats without having to buy the actual characters necessarily. And there's actually, I don't know how much we want to go into this, and it also goes into having access to, like, a 3D printer.
Yeah.
But there are sites, there are websites that have all of the characters that have been made for this game, and like all the landscape pieces, and then fan-made landscape pieces that do tessellate properly with all of the actual licensed material.
Yeah.
So, but it is just like the plans for them. You have to have access to an actual printer to be able to print them.
Which I think if you can, financially responsible, afford Warhammer or Heroscape, you should support these companies. But I love 3D printing. I think if you can't afford it and still want to play the game, I think 3D printing is an amazing way to get into it.
Yeah.
My second complaint is just aesthetic-wise. I feel like, again, they're trying to go the Warhammer route, where each army has its own distinct identity, but I feel like they've kind of failed that. They've lost the battle of all time feel. Like, everything that's come out almost feels like it's in the same era.
Universe.
Yeah, like with the original set, we had fantasy, like orcs and elves, and then we had historical units like Roman legionnaires or samurai. We had robot units, good and bad. There were the Moro, which are almost like I would say if you were to mix like a hive mind bug species and zombies,
Yeah.
I don't know. It just there's so much diversity. It really gave the game a unique feel, and I feel like we've kind of lost that so far.
I kind of agree, honestly. I love all the characters that we got in the new sets. Don't get me wrong. They're wonderful, and I think they add a lot to the game, but they do seem like a coherent vibe, and I hope that they diversify a little bit more with the characters that come out in the next couple of sets, just so it's like, oh, okay, they were going with a specific kind of vibe for this set.
Yeah.
And then it'll move on, because there are groups that have a similar vibe. Like they came out with all the Marvel characters, and it's like, okay, they're all from the same universe, they're all beloved characters, they all fit in kind of the same bubble, but maybe with the future ones they'll keep having different bubbles. It won't just keep being this.
Yeah. Well, I just want to clarify, are you talking about everything that we've gotten so far out of the new releases, or are you talking about everything that we know of so far as well?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which they're still trying to catch up with that Kickstarter. They've almost got everything out. I think by April everything will be out. And then next year, like I said, we're getting 2 more story expansions. The only thing I know of is there's Revna's Acolytes, which aesthetically I have no idea what they look like. And then also we're getting lava crabs.
Ooh,
I like lava crabs.
Me too.
that will be a welcome addition.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to get crabs of any kind, it would be a lava crab.
Real.
Yes.
I understand your guys' concern over that. I think that the nature of this product is going to limit the expediency with which they can shovel out new units.
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
bet you here in about 5-10 years after it's kind of run its course again, we'll see if it succeeds or fails, and I bet you there will be a lot more flora and fauna to speak of at that point.
Yeah, which
That's the hope.
the main reason I'm worried is one of the devs of the game did an interview where they were talking about brand identity and they want to avoid things like historical units or some of the stuff they've done before because they want to be able to protect their IP for if they want to expand into other things like movies, TV shows, books, video games.
That's just...
Yeah.
That's a little far. I feel like the battle of all time is already such an ambiguous concept.
Right.
And like, if you want to expand into those types of things, you can choose to expand into them in the specific ways that you want. Like, you don't have to expand into them in every single way that you've expanded the whole game. Like,
Right.
you don't have to. That seems like a weak excuse to me.
Especially when they already have, like, Heroscape as an IP already has so many original things. Like the Morrow, we did get one Morrow in the Battle for the Wellspring, which is really nice, but we could totally get a whole set of Morrow and it still fit within that IP protection.
Yeah.
And historical units, nobody owns.
No one.
No one owns
Those were
them.
real
You're fine.
people.
And
Yeah.
everyone uses them. That's the thing. Like, it's not like you're going to get in trouble because you have the British
Right.
in there. Like, I'm sorry. Everyone knows about the British. It's not going to be a problem.
Hey, I think you guys used the likeness of my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather on this
You owe me
minifig.
money.
Real. The one shining light, though, is the best thing I think that has come from the whole bringing it back is that it fits perfectly with the original set. Plays, they all go together, so you can play from any set from the original run with any set from the new run, and it works. So if you want to build a historical army, at least you still have that option.
Yeah, that's tiles, characters, cards, all of it is 100%.
It all.
Insert correct word here. I forgot what I was saying.
Interchangeable? Connectable?
Something like that.
It all-
They work together.
They all tessellate the same way.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Fusion.
Exactly. And I think it's kind of funny to think about, but like Battle of All Time and across such a big gap of time, they still connected everything to make it playable with all the things previous.
Yeah.
I mean,
Heck
they could
yeah.
have they could have totally rebranded and gone a different way and made everything before obsolete, which would have been super uncool of them. But like, at least they did that. They were loyal to the people that came before, who still had an interest, who still had all their pieces. They said, no, you can play with those and the new ones. So
I know I brought up some complaints, but I could not be happier that Heroscape is back. It is my favorite board game of all time, and I will be spending way too much money on it. That I can assure you.
Heck yeah.
Did you guys have any final thoughts on Heroscape before we move on?
Plug all things Heroscape.com. Go there for all your Heroscape needs. We're not sponsored, but we could be.
Yeah.
yeah.
And don't buy the
here.
things that we want to buy, because there's limited supply. Yeah. We will find you. We know who you are.
Alternatively, once we get our website up and running, if y'all want to send us anything,
Yeah.
we would never say no.
Of course. Minis, donations so we could buy minis, terrain.
Eventually, we might could do videos of us setting up or playing.
Heroscape unboxing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like seriously, if there are enough people interested in stuff like that, we could expand into things like that. But we won't know until we know. So.
Maybe that's what we do for our Nerds Only bonus episode. It's just like a board game night.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let us know whenever you hear this if you would be interested in that kind of content, because we would totally be down.
Hell yeah. Well, okay, moving us forward, what have you guys been doing this week? What have you been obsessed with?
I've been playing Starfield for the past several weeks. I've put about 36 hours into it so far. Having
Hell
a great
yeah.
time. Everybody who's saying that it's a buggy piece of shit game are correct. It is super buggy, but I'm still having fun.
It's so fun.
Listen, you can solve any problem by turning the console off and turning it back on.
Real.
Those are features, right?
Yeah,
That's what you call them,
features,
right?
not bugs.
They're features.
Exactly. Well, tell us about your character. What are they like? Are you like role playing a specific vibe or?
Not necessarily role playing. I always kind of just feel like I insert me and my morals into the character. Except for the part where I go around stealing from people. That's not Jerry. Not me. So I generally try to just do whatever lets me see the most game content.
Hell yeah.
And I guess I have been playing and have been wed to Sarah Morgan in Starfield for a while, so I always got to try to make sure the wife's happy with my decisions.
Which I just want to say, out of all the romanceable companions, probably the hardest one to keep happy.
She is pissed all the time. Yeah. She's also horny all the time.
Oh my.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry.
Didn't y'all like get engaged really quickly too?
Yeah, like I completed her quest line, and then it went from the engagement to like from when we started quote unquote dating to where she accepted a marriage proposal was like 5 minutes in game.
Yeah.
She was ready.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I know we off podcasts have talked a lot about Starfield, so but you know, our listeners haven't heard.
Yeah, for sure. No.
Do you have a favorite weapon?
Really just whatever does the most damage output.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the ballistic weapons, so I started out with like a suppressed side star and then slowly went up to like higher level, like the XM3611 pistol, and now I'm using a lawgiver that I've tricked out on the workbench. And
Nice.
yeah, ballistic weapons, not heavy weapons, but ballistic weapons.
What about favorite faction?
Favorite faction, the missions, probably Vanguard, and the characters, probably the UC Sysdef
Nice.
on the key stuff. So
Very good quest lines.
very good quest lines. I'm so sad. The game's going to be over soon. I'm so sad.
I know. For our audience, you have the DLC and then you have not done any of the main quest, right? Besides like the opening tutorial missions.
Right, and to clarify by main quests, what I think you're talking about is the lodge quests
Yeah.
or constellation quests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that's the main like storyline.
Gotcha.
You're gonna have so much fun. Don't get me wrong, I'm so happy you've had a good time with all the faction quest lines, but we're gonna have a lot to talk about when you finish.
Hell yeah, I'm excited. Need to get you to play, Kylee.
We'll see. After you're done, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. Anything else on Starfield you want to talk about? That's okay. I just don't want to rush you.
No, okay, you know what? The way that they program, I don't know who's making this decision for whatever video game production company ever out there. Just make it so that your characters, your playable character and the NPCs can travel at the same speed somehow.
Yes.
The walking speed of the NPCs does not correlate with the player character's walking speed or their running speed.
Not even close. Yeah.
There's got to be a way, right?
Somebody fix it.
It's in almost every game.
One of my favorite things to do is, like, when I'm following an NPC, if I know they're going somewhere specific, I will, like, run as fast as I can to that place to try and trigger the dialogue so that, like, when I start talking to whoever I'm supposed to talk to, as the camera's switching to the person I'm following, it, like, teleports to a whole different location.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I agree, though. I think the only game I've seen that did that right was Cyberpunk 2077.
I haven't played it yet.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Nice.
Kylee, what have you been playing, watching, reading?
Honestly, I have not been able to, I have not had the time to really play a lot of video games recently. We've played some Mario Kart, and we played one round of the new Mario Party game, but it really hasn't been so much video games for me. I like to crochet, so I've been crocheting a lot, and I've been rewatching shows that I always watch because I can do that passively and still focus on what I'm doing on the crochet stuff. So not a whole lot new to say. If anybody's interested in crochet, there's a lot of fun things on that front. But
well, tell us about it. What have you been working on?
I like to crochet stuffed animals. It is the most interesting for me, and honestly the easiest for my brain to wrap around.
Yeah.
Making the shapes is easier than working on a flat project and making sure every row has the same number of stitches. That just hurts my brain and it takes too much focus. Whereas when you crochet like an animal, you can see whether or not the shape is coming out right. And that's how you can tell if you're doing, like you still want to count your stitches and all that, but it's a little bit more passive than that. Plus there's a lot more room to kind of make it your own when you're doing the shape. Because if you miss any stitches or anything, it's not like it's going to show up in a really obvious way necessarily. And there's also just so many patterns out there from so many creative people that you can try. Like my favorite things that I've been making have been these cute little crochet turtles who have different fruits as their shells.
Nice.
They've been a big hit and I really love making them. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff. And I feel like before I got into crochet, I always thought, man, that's such a weird thing. It'll take up so much time. And it seems so hard, like the barrier for entry. And there is a barrier for entry. There's a learning curve for sure. But once you get the muscle memory down and like the first several basic stitches, it's actually not that difficult. And there's so many things you can do creatively.
If, let's say somebody did want to get into it, would you have a recommendation on like a pattern to start with, a specific stitch?
A lot of people say you want to start with granny squares because it will teach you all the basic stitches. And it's like a repeating pattern and you just make a square out of it. And there are a lot of things you can do with granny squares, But if you are like me, sticking with it long enough to make enough granny squares to make an actual project out of it that's bigger than like a pot holder
Yeah.
is hard because it gets boring.
Yeah.
So I would say learning to crochet in the round, which is what you do to crochet stuffed animals and like 3D kind of objects.
Mm-hmm.
It's different than crocheting flat projects, but it like scratches an itch in my brain. Like it makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can start on a small stuffed animal kind of project, or even like I've been crocheting pumpkins since it's the fall season.
Yeah.
There's several really easy pumpkin patterns that, you know, they make a tiny pumpkin. You can make it in like 2 to 4 hours and then it's done and you have a cute little fall thing. Like there are easier things to start out on. And there are even companies that create starter packs to teach you the basics of crochet. I think Woobles is one of the best ones, which it's a funny name, but like
it's a good name.
Each package gives you everything you need, all the yarn, all of the instruments and things that you will need to make the whatever is on the front of the packet. Like I think they sell one that's like a penguin and it's really cute. It makes you a just like palm-sized penguin and it teaches you basic stitches for crocheting in the round.
Nice.
And that's a really good entry. It's a really good starter so that you can start to understand basic stitch work and start working down your muscle memory. And it gives you a cute little thing at the end of the project that is interesting.
Yeah.
So
You could keep for yourself or give it away as a gift or...
Yes.
I know for those specifically, just for anyone who's interested, some patterns you're allowed to sell, some patterns you're not, like after you make them. The Woobles, can you sell them if you want? Or
I believe... I think what it is most people ask you to not resell their pattern.
Right.
You can generally resell on most projects. You always want to check the line when you buy a pattern on whether or not they're okay with you reselling things that you make with their pattern. But generally, a lot of people are okay with you selling the after product.
Gotcha.
As long as you give them a shout out.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
make sure that everybody knows this
Like
wasn't a pattern
from-
that that this wasn't a pattern that you yourself made. You give them a shout that's like, hey, I didn't make this pattern. If you want this pattern, you can buy it here from this creator.
Yeah.
And that's generally it's the kind thing to do because, you know, you want to give credit to people
of
and
course.
creators out there, especially in things that you're interested in. So I try to do that whenever I get a pattern. If I write it down, I'll generally write at the end of the pattern by such and such person,
Nice.
you know. So, and I generally only give them my stuff right now. I give them to family, friends, and family. So it's not so much like profiting off of other people's work. But if I was to get to a point where I was selling to a broader audience, I think I would put like a tag on the ones and say, this pattern was made by such and such person. It can be found here, here, and here.
Yeah.
Please support all of your pattern makers out there because like they're brilliant. I love crocheting. Pattern making is so hard.
Yeah.
So crazy hard. And mad respect to all the people out there making these patterns.
For sure.
So
For sure. I know you mentioned lately you've really enjoyed the turtles, the fruit turtles, but do you have a favorite project that you've made ever? Like,
oh man, there have been some really good ones. It's kind of funny. I've made a lot of really fun ones, and all of them, almost all of them, I would do again. But I think one of my favorites has got to be one of the first ones I made, and I used the wrong size yarn, and it came out massive.
Nice.
Way bigger than it was supposed to. But I loved the yarn because it was like this really big, soft purple, like deep purple yarn. And I made an octopus out of it, and it ended up being so big, and it took me like weeks and weeks to make.
hell yeah.
But and I still have it, and I didn't stuff him enough because he's a little bit like wobbly and loose. But it makes me smile every time I see it, because it's kind of like where I started and what sparked my real love for doing this.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things you can do, like even with a pattern, even if you follow the pattern fully, if you use a different yarn size, if you use a different hook size, if you use soft yarn versus like the cotton yarn, the pattern can end up looking so different. It can be so unique and special to you as an individual. And I would say that was my favorite, just because it started me down the path of like, oh, I can play around with these. I can make them the way that I want to. Even if I like the original starting point, I can tailor it to my tastes. So, yeah.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, how about you, Elijah? What have you been obsessing over lately?
Yeah, so I won't go too deep into this because I want to wait till I finish season 1. But as mentioned in a previous episode, I have been watching Vinland Saga, which is one of our other co-hosts' favorite anime, or one of his favorite anime. So I'm almost done with season 1. Just a little update. Really enjoying it, and I'll talk about that more once I finish. But Black Ops 6 just came out a couple days ago, and COD Zombies is back, you guys. It's so back.
Nice.
Is BO6 day one Game Pass?
It is a day 1 Game Pass. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to specify that's console and PC.
Ooh.
Or Xbox console and PC specifically.
Like Game Pass Ultimate for the PC. Hell yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll download it and play with some zombies with you or whatever.
Yes,
Nice.
for sure. Which, zombies has had a very long history. I mean, we've had it since World of War, which was like, I want to say some Call of Duty 6 through 8, maybe. I can't remember exactly what number it was. This is like Call of Duty maybe 20 or something. Again, I've not kept up with it, but there's a lot of them. But we've really struggled, the zombies community. In BO4, Bob Igor, may he rest in peace. He's not dead, but Bing, editor Elijah here. I need to clarify, Bob Iger is the CEO of Disney. That's my bad. Here I am specifically talking about Bobby Kotick, the former CEO of Activision Blizzard. Obviously, anyone who knows anything about Activision Blizzard, he made a ton of bad decisions for all of their games. Zombies was one of the ones that really suffered. BO4 was the first one that really hurt. Personally, I love BO4, but his focus on battle royales really hurt that game as a whole. And then from there, we got Cold War, which was definitely solid, but I feel like they lost the aesthetic identity of the game. It felt way more like a multiplayer game. Like, a lot of the maps were just reused assets. Then Vanguard, they completely changed the format, so instead of being round-based, it was objective-based, and they tried to lean more into the roguelike aspect of it, and that one was awful.
Man.
And then Modern Warfare 3 had its own zombies mode, but it was just like a big open world, which was a really cool concept, but it wasn't round-based like the old games were. So again, I just feel like they've really struggled with the identity of zombies over the last few releases, and not in this one. Round-based is back. They have Easter eggs from day 1. Each map has unique wonder weapons. A lot of the stuff from Cold War in terms of the multiplayerification of it is still there, but now you have the option to turn that off.
Oh.
Like, there's a mini map that you can turn off. The zombies have health bars, which you can turn off. There's a kill feed, which is really distracting. Like, the last game I played, I had over 1,000 kills, which, just every time you kill one, there's a zombie killed,
Yeah.
You can turn that off. There's, I want to say, 10 different HUD presets to completely change where everything is placed. We get starting 2 maps, which was the standard for a long time, and we lost that for a little bit. But there's Liberty Falls, which is a really small map. You don't really have to do anything to get Pack-a-Punch. You just go and it's available. It's a great one for just like jumping in, playing for a little bit and ending. Then we have Terminus, which is a prison island, which is the biggest map they've ever made.
Nice.
And into the island aspect of it, there's like, you can get in a boat and travel to some of the smaller islands around. And there's a giant Cthulhu-esque monster that will hunt you if you stay in the boat too long.
Let's go.
That's awesome.
Hunted
And-
by the horrors.
Jerry, you're going to piss yourself.
Oh,
There's a save and quit feature, finally.
Oh my gosh, someone did it.
Finally.
The Mad Lads did it.
they finally heard all of the things that everyone was saying, and they were like, "Okay, fine, we'll put it all in."
Yeah.
It's about damn time. Good Lord.
I don't know. They just, I really love what they've done so far. And like just some more other great things they've done. There are no rewards for completing the Easter egg. Like there have been in the past, but it clearly says like if you beat the Easter egg, like on, I think Terminus, you get a skin for one of the characters. And then on Liberty Falls, you get a skin for the ray gun and some other smaller stuff. There's a dedicated crew now. So like old games, there was a dedicated crew that you would play as, and that's how they told the story, was from the perspective of the crew.
Gotcha.
When you got to Cold War, they switched it to operators. So you could pick, it was the same operators as multiplayer, and you could pick anyone you wanted. And then instead of telling the story from who you were playing as, there were just like voice lines from other characters.
Oh,
And so it was a good way to tell the story, but it just, you didn't connect emotionally as much.
gotcha.
And so they've brought set operators back. Oh, and they're doing so the Easter egg, there is going to be a full tutorial for every Easter egg, or like set objectives for everyone, like a month or two after launch. So this satisfies both the hardcore and the casual fans. Hardcore fans still have a month or two to figure out the Easter egg without any help. And casual fans will eventually get the chance to do the assisted version, and I'm so hyped. It's so good.
Man,
That's awesome.
that really is. I love it whenever, it's unfortunate whenever people stumble on follow-up games or movies or shows or whatever in fulfilling what originally the fan base liked about those things. But it's always great to see when further down the line they've taken all of those thoughts into consideration and finally check off all the boxes for their fans. Like that's really good, and it brings me hope for a lot of different things.
Yeah. Which, on one hand, Treyarch has done really good. They had a 4-year development cycle. Usually they only get 3. Cold War, they only got 2, which, so I try and give them a little slack for that one. But so this is the longest development cycle they've had, so that's a really big part of it. Xbox bought Activision, which means Bob is out. He got fired.
Nice.
And like, these people can actually just make what they want, finally. So I'm really happy, and we'll definitely have to play some, Jerry.
Hell yeah. Don't let me forget, because I will forget.
For sure. Yeah, and there's, just for our audience, they definitely have more maps planned, and it looks like, in terms of the next map, they said we're getting it in Season 1, which will be in like a month, but I think the way the COD seasons work is they have initial release, and then halfway through a season they'll do what they call Reloaded, where they just kind of update the season, add some new stuff. So I'm leaning more towards when they say Season 1 for the next map, they mean Season 1 Reloaded, which will be in like 2-3 months. That was all. Sorry to kind of just rant. I was very excited about it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you guys, or not rant, just like ramble on, I think is a better way to phrase that. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Make sure and go check out our other shows, Elements of a Great Adventure, our D&D Real Play podcast, and Animal Squadron, our Star Wars review podcast. And we will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.